So, quick video on how to, this is a 2013 636, and it was in a wreck. I was in a wreck, and we've spent a number of weeks piecing my bike back together, rebuilding it, and now we're to the point where we're installing the front fairing pieces. Got a new fairing piece here yesterday. Got some other ones here that we got a couple weeks ago. There's one of the ones that we tried to fix. That's the original piece. But anyhow, this is a video on how to get the front fairing on. We were actually unsuccessful last night. We tried to install the fairing and had a number of struggles. We do have the service manual, and it's not the greatest. It doesn't completely mention a few things that we've discovered along the way. So I couldn't find any resources online that explain this very well. So I thought I would take a little bit of time to put together a video. So hopefully the next person that stumbles down this path will have a much easier time putting the front fairing, the upper fairing assembly back onto the bike. So one of the biggest struggles we had was, well, still have, I guess, is this is the California model. So I have this oxygen sensor or something here that you don't have on your bike unless you're in California. So I have to deal with this, and this complicates things. So I'll also show in this video how we managed to reattach that, because it's a lot like some of the screws in the headlight section. You can't get to these screws that hold this in here with the fairing, you know, in place, or even mostly in place. So we've struggled with trying to get our hands in there to put those screws in. So I'll show you how we managed to get that on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I actually have to take this. I got to take this off. So I'm going to do that now. So this fairing comes off. I've only got one screw on here right now. There's more to it when you're doing the removal. This is just how I have it held on right now. And then if you want to take a peek in there, you can see the oxygen something or other. I'm not sure what this does, but it takes in air on the front. I should know that. I'll have to figure that out. And then I did disconnect. There's a wire harness back here, so I've got that disconnected. And then there's all of these hoses. I'm planning to leave those connected as we do this. So, but there's 3 screws holding this in. There's one on the top, and then there's 2 underneath. And again, as you can see, once this fairing is up here, you can't get to these screws. I'll show you how to do that. So here we have the headlight assembly, the upper fairing section with the nose and the headlights in it. And right now, the headlights are attached. So in order to do this, we are going to have to take the headlights and separate them from the nose fairing here. So there's 3 screws to do that. There's these 2 screws here, and then there's the one way under here. So I'll pop those screws out, we'll pull the headlights out, and then we'll move on to the next step. So before I pull the headlights out, the reason we need to do that is because there's a screw that goes in here, and you can't put that screw in with the headlight assembly in here. So the headlight assembly needs to come out so that we can put primarily this screw. It actually connects to the black fairing that we were looking at earlier. So that's why these have to come out. Okay, so we've taken out those 3 screws, and the headlights slide right out of the fairing assembly here. That's all it takes. Just so you can see why I'm doing all of this, here's the 2 different headlight assemblies that I now own. This is my original one, I was in again, I was in a wreck. You can see that this is damaged, and then this is the new headlight assembly. So that's why we're doing this. We're going through and putting all these new parts on, and yep. So the next step is to start connecting the upper fairing assembly, and we have to fit these tabs together on the front, and then there's 2 screws that go in, and this is the one right here that ends up getting covered by the headlight assembly right here. So there's that one, and then there's this one back here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these in on both sides. So I've got these 2 screws in, and as you can see, this is now connected. You have to be careful with this little tab right here. That seems very fragile. I haven't broken it yet, but it does seem very delicate, and it tends to want to pop out a lot on me, so I've had to redo this a couple times because that keeps popping out if I don't continue to hold this thing here. You notice this right here, this actually broke off in my crash. The fairing escaped mostly unscathed, as you can see. Not too bad, but this piece broke off, so we actually used some Bondo and some reinforcing here to put that back on, so I didn't have to buy a new fairing assembly on this side. So here we have the 2 side panels connected to the nose section here. This makes up the upper fairing, and we also have the black piece here that goes over the behind the LCD panel, and this is the air inlet. So it's all screwed together here. We've got these 4 screws. It's critical to have this piece on, and then what we're going to do is install this whole piece as a unified assembly onto the bike. So we'll show you that next. So I misspoke. We are going to install this as an assembly, but we're actually going to put the headlights back in now. So we'll do that next. Okay, so the last of the 3 screws for the headlights is being installed right now on the bottom. We put the 2 in on the top. She's finishing the one on the bottom. And then from here, you can see now with the headlights in, you can see how it blocks that screw right there. There's no way to get to that screw with all of this connected. It's impossible to try and do it any other way. So you have to follow this sequence, and this is what we failed at last night and gave up. And so now we're going to move to starting to assemble this on the bike, and the first step is going to be, as we bring it over there, will be to assemble. As we're sliding it in, we'll screw the oxygen box on here. I still don't know what that thing is, but anyways, we'll do that next. Okay, so another missed step. I apologize for all of these errors. We're definitely amateurs. These actually go in now too. There's a bolt, and there's one on each side. She's finishing the one on the left, and then we're going to do the one on the right. So these get attached as well. I thought they connected to something in the head assembly up on the bike. It turns out they don't. So it's a good thing that I have my wife here today, because otherwise I would have messed it up and created more work for myself. So.
Oh no.
So, don't be a moron like me and forget to put these little tabs back into the bolt assembly here. We went through all the hard work to put that bolt in and forgot that we didn't put this little tab in here. This tab is used to keep these wires organized for the headlights. So yeah, don't forget to do that. You'll see that she's in the process of putting the last screw on the oxygen sensor. It's a pain in the butt to get to. I couldn't get my hand to the one underneath, so So luckily she's got smaller hands and she can get in there. But we slid the whole fairing assembly on with the headlights attached to it, and as you can see, we're actually moving along quite nicely. So she's gotten the screw in the lower bracket. Thank God she was here. I couldn't have gotten my hand in there to do it. And now she's reconnecting the wiring harness, and then we're going to reconnect all the lights. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. We'll reconnect the stator and the relay over here and the headlights, and we'll go ahead and then bolt this thing in place. So we've gotten all of the headlights and the blinkers reconnected here. She's routed the radiator hose through the bottom of the middle of the lower fairing here, and now we're going to go ahead and move to this side. Okay, so in the process of reassembling all of this, the whole thing basically gets rehung with, on the front side at least, it gets hung with this one bolt off of the bracket here that holds the speedometer. Everything is connected ahead of time and slid on, and then you very simply put this one bolt into the back of the headlight assembly on both sides, and that's what essentially connects the whole thing to the rest of the motorcycle. Obviously it's connected in other spots too further down the line, but at least up here. So that's the sequence that we messed up last night. We didn't know which one of these pieces to put on first, and through trial and error we have finally made it this far. Just doing the final tightening on this, holding the fairing with my left hand underneath, trying to keep all these plastic clips connected under here. They keep wanting to come disconnected on us. They're a real pain. Made this extra difficult. And if you don't keep those clips, those little plastic clips in place on all this under assembly, it all looks out of alignment, and nothing sits flush, and it just doesn't look clean. So anyhow, that was a major pain. I also have the headache of dealing with, I have heated grips, so I have extra cables in here that we had to manage as we were putting this back together. So this was a headache, but we finally made it this far. So again, you have to, in order to reassemble the fairings for the bike, you have to assemble basically this whole upper fairing off of the bike. You put this piece onto the two side fairings, then you put the headlights in, then you slide it onto the bike, and if you have a California model, you have to slide the oxygen sensor in place and screw that in, and then after you've set the oxygen sensor, you push it in the rest of the way, and then deal with all your wires, hang it with these two bolts. So again, it's like a whole piece that gets assembled off the bike and then slid on.